Welcome to Faith, Fuel, and Fitness, the Integrity Way, with your hosts, John and Debbie Morris from Integrity Training Systems.
Welcome, everyone. We are so happy to be back on the air. I'm happy to be here, especially this time around, with this new show with my husband, John Morris, my Viking husband, that is, which honestly, recently I'm looking across the table and I'm not even sure I recognize him because at one point he had a beard halfway down his chest and he's just all GQ smooth down there looking handsome. How are you?
I'm doing well. Kind of weirded out a little bit with the GQ comments, but it is weird to not have my beard.
We were sitting there with your leather jacket and your smooth hat that you wore in here.
You told me we were going to record, so I came in looking recordable.
Looking fly, exactly. But honestly, if you look at my husband normally, he's known as the Viking because he legitimately looks like a Viking. And right now he does look very smooth shaved, and in all the 8 years that I've known him, he just really hasn't been smooth shaved. So it looks fantastic on you, John. I'm so excited to have you as part of the radio show.
Well, I'm excited to be here. I think we obviously had me on a little bit at the end of the last show that you did, but it'll be neat to kind of coordinate and work together this time through the whole deal.
Absolutely. You're a wealth of knowledge when it comes to personal training, but also to nutrition, John, and I really just would love for you to just kind of explain to them, because I feel like today's show is just giving them an approach and understanding of who we are, where we've come from, and what we do, so that as we move forward, they have a basis of an understanding of what we can offer. Sure. But I'd love for you to tell them how we met, in that, obviously that 5-minute, version of when we met, and how we met.
I thought we only had an hour.
Right, exactly. Well, we even have less than that,
exactly, right?
But I'd love for everyone to hear it because it's an amazing story of victory.
Well, I'll start. Obviously, we'll get more detailed as our show continues, talk more in depth with the things, the details in between. And the basic version, I would say, is that I was in law enforcement. I was not in a good place. I had become an alcoholic. I ate really bad food. I had become addicted to painkillers because I had broke my back in 2006 and basically had an unlimited prescription of that. So I was also being diagnosed for depression and anxiety, so I had an unlimited access to Xanax. And so I was in this position where I ate horrible food, I was addicted to Xanax, I was addicted to alcohol, and I was addicted to Percocet, and I was an overnights patrolman, and I had gotten myself to where I was 100 pounds overweight, and I had a heart attack. And so I had a heart attack at 26. I woke up on a table with a doctor who was familiar with me from fits for confinement for law enforcement. He looked me square in the eye and said, "John, if you don't go lose 80 pounds, you're going to die before you're 30. And I said, "Okay, well, then I guess I better go lose some weight." And a mutual friend of ours introduced me to Debbie, my now wife. I married her so that I wouldn't gain the weight back. But no, she was great for me because I could tell that she wasn't a one-way approach. I've been in the fitness industry for a while as far as working out in multiple different gyms. I was an athlete in high school and post-college. I was an intermediate cage fighter, and I've had multiple trainers that I've worked with that have tried to help me with food and exercise, and I could tell instantly when I met Debbie that it was different. She had different approaches for everybody. Also, when I first met with Debbie, I could tell that she was in it with me because she sat me down, and again, we'll get into this a little more in depth when I have more time for it, but she sat me down and basically told me that she could tell I had a problem, which nobody on the surface knew. I hid it really well, and she told me that until I was able to beat that problem and get that oppressiveness off of me, that I would not be able to lose the weight and keep the weight off. She's like, "You'll lose the weight, but you're just not going to change your life, and it's going to come right back on you." She asked me if I had faith, and basically sat me down, took me to church for about a half an hour, and then gave me this piece of paper that said what I should eat. I left, and my head exploded, and then we hit the ground running ever since then. I lost 100 pounds, and then I decided that I needed to shift out of law enforcement and help people do this for a living.
And you do an amazing job at it. And what's interesting is when I first met with John, he was referred to me by one of the business owners that I worked for at the time. And he was this huge, scary, monstrous looking guy. And when I sat down at the table The only thing I could think about was that he didn't have faith and that he was probably going to drown no matter what diet I gave him if he didn't change that faith perspective. And I don't take that approach with everyone that I meet with. So it was a real turning point for John's life when.
Right. Yeah. That's why I was like, I only got 5 minutes. I don't know if I should mention the whole story. I mean, she made me sink in my chair.
Yeah.
All 310 pounds of me.
Right. But what's manifested from that is that he's a life changer now, and he's an amazing personal trainer, and he's had such incredible results with his clients because he's been through it. You know, when he meets with them and they say that they can't get past the sugar cravings, or they can't get past the desire to have drinks, or they can't get past the desire to, just go ahead and just bail on their workouts, he can say,
right,
been there, done that.
Yeah.
I know what you're feeling, And at the end of the day, that's kind of why we do what we do.
Right.
So ultimately, just to give you a little bit of a perspective, I personally have been a trainer for over 20 years now. I took the approach of nutrition being a priority from day one. As a personal trainer, you don't necessarily get any type of education when it comes to nutrition. You're basically just sort of left to kind of the same, I guess, desire or the same techniques that everyone else on the planet is left to. There's no real formal training as a personal trainer.
That's the thing that actually impressed me about Debbie, and that's what I, not to sit and toot the horn of Debbie. It actually worked better for me to sell her when we weren't married. But then I ended up marrying her, and now, of course, I think she's great. But that's the thing is I've just been amazed at what you've been through with your health and just from a life perspective and how you've turned those trials and tribulations into triumph. And you've done so by learning that there are a million different ways to get there and how everybody's different.
Right.
So like tell them so that they're aware. They've got a little bit of my story, but tell them a little bit about what makes you different in this field.
Well, I take the approach of understanding that no one person is going to be like the other. So I do not have a single approach when it comes to nutrition. I always try to identify how to balance someone's blood sugar. That's our foundation. I always put them on a low histamine diet, and then I also, put them on what I consider an anti-inflammatory diet because I'm actually balancing out their blood sugar. But ultimately, what we're trying to do is just balance them mind, body, spirit. So we're looking at a lot of different factors to try to figure out what's going to make them well. And it isn't about counting calories. It isn't about counting carbs. It's truly about getting an understanding of what that person needs and where they are in the season that they're in at that time. Now, we take that same exact approach with personal training, though. We don't just start throwing people into exercise. We don't just start throwing them into weights or burpees or deadlifts. We take a very structured approach at personal training. We'll eventually talk to you about that detailed assessment that we do. But as far as I'm concerned in my backdrop, the reason I became a personal trainer, I actually spent the bulk of my years studying finance. But I ended up passing out on my driveway one night and ended up in an ambulance. My ex-husband had to call 911. He used to work night shift, and so I just happened to be, by the grace of God, blessed enough that he happened to be home that night.
Right.
Called the ambulance, got me to the hospital, and it took me 2 years to find out pretty much nothing about myself. I went to 22 different doctors. I lost my job. Lost my car. I drove a Corvette. It was a wedding gift at the time, and I drove a Corvette and I had a brand new Jeep. I lost both of them, and I drove a used Oldsmobile. Nothing against Oldsmobile, but just telling you that's what I went to. I almost lost my house, all because of how sick I was, and no one could figure out what it was. So finally, after 2 years, I met a homeopathic doctor, and he said, "What is your blood type?" And I said, "I have no idea." So he checked it and said, "You're eating all the wrong foods." And I said, "That's physically impossible. I have personally out of pocket paid 2 registered dietitians, both at 2 different hospitals, to tell me exactly what to eat. And I eat exactly what they tell me to. I was to a T." And he said, "Well, that's all the wrong foods for you. And it's pretty much why you're as sick as you are right now." So I changed my food. I did everything he suggested. And within a week, remember, it had been 2 years. Within a week, I started seeing changes in my health. I was able to walk down the stairs by myself. I didn't have to have food at my bedside to build my blood sugar.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that we don't talk about enough. But I mean, she was really sick, like not even able to walk up and down stairs.
Yeah.
Had to be carried around.
Well, I went down to
kinda sick.
85 pounds.
Right.
But what was interesting is I went down to 85 pounds. I was super frail, but then from all of the food that the dietitians had told me to eat, for the first time in my entire life, I went up to 150 pounds.
Right.
So I went from being
85.
a double zero to 150 pounds. So it was just unbelievable how my health had changed for the worse just from eating these foods. But it's been a journey ever since. And honestly, had I not lived through those circumstances, I wouldn't be able to help people at the level at which I help them today. And I just apply so much of that wisdom from all of the practitioners, all of the different things that we've gone through, I apply to what I do on the daily, which, John, I'm sure you do the same exact thing. Of course, I'm certified. I'm a certified health coach, certified personal trainer. I focus on functional nutrition, which is based out of functional medicine. I was taught by functional medicine doctors. I'm currently undergoing a certification in Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, nutritional therapy, and also currently undergoing a certification in brain health therapy with the Dr. Amen Clinic.
Again, that's what I love. Not to interrupt you here, Deb, but that's the thing is, a lot of people are like, oh, well, even recently we had a hater on Facebook say, well, I hope people don't blindly follow you. You're only into Chinese medicine, and that's wrong. And it's like, no, you've missed everything else that we've been getting training in over the last 20 years. Like, it's adding something to that repertoire, and that's what makes you so good, in my opinion, at what you do, is having all of those different types of knowledges.
Well, and unfortunately, people just have very detailed issues.
Right.
You know what? I'm not a doctor, but when it comes to nutrition, so much can change. I mean, so much can change when you are really focusing on the details with nutrition. And so the functional medicine approach, the traditional Chinese medicine approach, the Amen Clinic, the actual brain health approach with nutrition. If you're factoring all of those in, I mean, at all the same time, then you can go to those really hard cases.
Yeah.
I'm one of those hard cases. I have
too.
an autoimmune condition. You're one of those hard cases. You
Been
will
hitting the
stray
head too many times.
Exactly. You've had 10 concussions. You'll stray from depression to anxiety. For you, your food is life or death for you. I mean, you will legitimately tank if we don't have you on the right food.
Well, it's been interesting, even since this, I just competed in a tournament 2 weeks ago, and my food has been not back where it needs to be for 2 weeks now. And I mean, yesterday I found myself complaining to Debbie about how bad my knee hurt, my bad shoulder hurt, my back was hurting, I had a headache, I was cloudy, I wasn't thinking straight. And it's funny because, Deb sits there and stares at me, and she's so sweet to not just be like, well, hey, idiot, you just had a donut this morning, and it's literally coursing through your messed up brain. Yes.
What?
Well, that's why
Yeah,
why you weren't able to say. That's how you weren't able to call me out. It's because I don't tell you.
Right.
But it's funny because she knows. I mean, it's just real life. It's like I tell myself it's this reward for winning this tournament I did, and that I deserve it. But it's like, man, you don't deserve to feel like junk. It's like it's reverting. But we're all guilty of that, right? We're all guilty. It's the holidays. I just had this tournament. I cut 20 pounds to compete at a different weight class. Well, guess what? I've put the 20 pounds back on in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, guys.
Right.
So it's like and it's not just about weight. It's what is that weight doing to my body? What's it doing to my brain? What's it doing to my joints?
Right.
You have to consider all of that stuff.
Right.
And that's
how inflamed did you get in 2 weeks?
Right.
For
and that's
20
the thing
pounds.
is when you're talking about a detailed case, it's like, I'm consuming things that I don't consume. And what's happening is like all of these injured spots I have, which I have quite a few of those, they're just inflamed, to your point. How inflamed did you get? And it's like, I should have more control over that. And I've let myself down on that.
Well, but the thing is you can start over.
Exactly.
Right?
Start over today.
Every meal is an opportunity to start over. Every meal is an opportunity to start fresh. And that's what we try to teach. I don't just teach calories. I don't just teach food logging. I teach how to change the mind.
Well, That's the thing is I've noticed since being in this industry with you is I had no idea how many people are addicted to food and drinks and sugar and carbs and that it's actually so much less about micro and macro nutrient counting and so much more about teaching the discipline and the mind control to overcome this stuff. I dealt with addicts in law enforcement, and I dealt with people who were constantly drinking or doing heroin or cocaine, and it's like these things, I'm looking at sugar and carbs, it's identical. I mean, it's identical. So watching you teach the mindset it's been neat.
And that's what we do from a nutrition and a training perspective. Mind, body, spirit, we come together as a team. For more information on meeting with one of our personal trainers for a free personal fitness assessment where we identify any muscle imbalances or postural deviations that you have, you can give us a call at 636-299-2208. Or for more information on any type of nutrition program, one of our 6-month programs, our group programs, or our online program, you can take a look at us at integritytraininggroup.com. It's amazing to have already been through one segment with you. I'm glad to be back on the airwaves. Oh, it's so good to be back, and I'm so glad to have John in the studio with me. We're just talking a little bit about what we do at Integrity Training Systems. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at us, we are located in Wing Haven out in O'Fallon, Missouri, and we do have a satellite location in Clayton. We've been doing what we do for a very long time, and we were talking a little bit before the break about how uniquely different John and I's situations are. Yeah, how our situations are. A lot of times people will come into my office and be like, oh, I know you're always perfect on your food, Debbie, so you probably don't understand. They don't realize, I have an autoimmune issue. I cannot eat the food that they're struggling with, the sugar and the pizza.
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, they shouldn't be eating it either.
Yeah.
But I'm in a circumstance where I can't afford to go to the hospital because I eat it.
That's my favorite. Is I had a conversation with a client who told me that they wished they had an autoimmune condition so that they would eat their food right, like Debbie does. And I was like, there is no way you just said that.
Right.
Because for two reasons. One, you obviously do not want an autoimmune condition. It is terrible as someone who as a spouse has watched it firsthand. But secondly, it's like you have problems right now and you're still eating garbage. So I'm here to tell you, if you had an autoimmune condition, you would just die because you would eat the food you shouldn't eat.
I mean, you have diabetes and you're still eating it.
You're actually not okay right now.
You have high blood pressure. Yeah, stop eating it.
It's terrible.
You have enough of a reason, So I personally have to be aware of what I'm consuming just due to the fact that I'll have sensitivities on a regular basis. But I have a team of people that help me, and my nutrition sincerely has to be solid. I cannot waver when it comes to my nutrition. I do always have to make sure I get my supplements in, and then I meet with professionals, to try to help keep me well. I see an acupuncturist, I see a massage therapist, I see a chiropractor. I go to a homeopathic physician. I do work with a doctor that does hormone replacement therapy. So there's a number of different things. We've recently taken John to a place called the Amen Clinic, and the reason that we want to talk about this is just so that you can understand the depth of what we have to deal with and how important the nutrition is.
Yeah,
and that's why
just how to eat.
Exactly. It's why we do the 6-month program that we do. I don't feel that I can work with someone on a one-time basis. I need 6 months to really get in and try to understand what that person needs. But, John, we took you to the Amen Clinic. It was in Chicago, and we did the brain scans. And Dr. Daniel Amen is kind of the first psychiatrist that will not treat a person unless he sees a scan of their brain.
Right.
So John had 10 concussions, or at least that we know of from the MMA fighting. Yeah. And unfortunately, he has quite a few things off. And so they are giving him some supplements to try to assist him with that. Well, tell them a little bit about just the dynamic of what they were most concerned about with the caffeine and the sugar.
Oh, yeah. It was actually pretty fascinating because the lady's like showing me my brain. The psychiatrist, she's really nice. We were on a Zoom call with them. And, she was like, it's not the worst I've seen, but, and I'm like, okay, so it's close. And she's going over and she's like, I do think we can help with this. And she starts talking about how, things I think she's going to talk about. Watch your stress levels, watch your sleep, make sure that you're getting enough rest, make sure you're getting, everyone talks about a work-life balance, like make sure you're getting enough you time. She didn't talk about any of that. She didn't talk about sleep. She didn't talk about work-life balance. She didn't talk about time off. What she talked very explicitly about was you can't have caffeine. You cannot have sugar. You should have no form of stimulants. And you really shouldn't have things like gluten or high carbs or starches. Like she actually wanted me to go straight into a ketogenic diet right there on the spot.
Psychiatrist,
psychiatrist, because she wanted my brain to be fueled by the fats and not by those sugars and starches. And we can talk maybe even in the next segment a little bit about that. But what it was is she was trying to control the amount of damage that I have done to my brain. Now, I'm an extreme case. I've been hit in the head a lot. But even if you haven't, the chemistry of what you bring into your body alters your brain. She was able to show me ripples in the imagery from when I was an alcoholic. She showed me the damage to my brain from the alcohol. So everything you're ingesting and putting in your body is damaging your brain potentially or helping it. So if you're taking something in, you really want to look at it as, is this helping me or hurting me? There's not really an in-between.
Right. Absolutely. And then understanding, so we did everything she said, right? I mean, we went home. I mean, it was like the ride home was kind of crazy because we were at a gas station. I thought John was going to stab me because I suggested that he not get an energy drink.
Not you, but somebody.
Right.
Somebody was getting hurt.
And so then he didn't talk to me for the next hour, but he didn't get the energy drink, so it was fine. But so tell him about, you went 40 days without caffeine, and then what happened?
I did. I went 40 days without caffeine. I started feeling great. Fog was lifted off my
Calm.
mind.
I saw calm in him.
They've all but diagnosed me bipolar. I've had that diagnosis from one psychiatrist before that I didn't like, so I refuse to believe that that's true. These people seem to think it's more just based off of emotional swings from chemistry imbalance because of the things that we're mentioning now. But I was able to control my emotion a lot better, the irritation, the anger, the rage, the depression, the anxiety, by getting the caffeine and sugar out.
Yes.
But I had a incident with my grandfather who passed away. I had a quick turnaround driving out of state and back in. I allowed myself to have one caffeinated beverage to get myself home at 3 o'clock in the morning. And next thing you know, within 48 hours, I'm drinking 4 energy drinks a day again. Just like that. Just like that, I'm back on this full regimen of the stuff that I know I shouldn't have. And my brain is tanked because of it.
Right. And we just saw the calm just gone.
Dissipate.
It was just like as if someone reached in and grabbed it from him. And it was so wild because just the week prior, he was sitting down doing math problems with Sophie. And I said to him, that's our daughter, Sophie. Yes, she's 9. And I said to him, I said, John, seriously, you're the most attractive you have ever been to me in our entire relationship at this very moment.
Yeah, I still have my
you are
beard.
so patient with her. You should no, it wasn't that. You're so patient with her right now. And you could just see calm on him. So ultimately, what we're trying to help you to understand is that all of this nutrition talk connects to what it's going to take to get you to have a healthier lifestyle. We can help you with that. I do a 6-month nutrition program where I tell you exactly what to eat, where to buy it, how to prepare it, what to order when you eat out, what to do when you travel. Everything is figured out for you, and you even get a cookbook too. For more information on that 6-month nutrition program or our online program, you can go to integritytraininggroup.com, or to schedule a free personal fitness assessment with any of our personal trainers to just identify any imbalances that you have free of charge. Please give us a call at 636-299-2208. Hey, everybody, it's so good to be back. We're going to kind of continue a little bit more of that conversation where we're talking to John about having gone to the Amen clinics, and he went 40 days without caffeine and then had to do a 24-hour turnaround down to Georgia, went to a funeral. Unfortunately, his grandfather had passed away, and then he had to drive right back. And so he grabbed an energy drink, and then the very next day was right back on 4 energy drinks a day. And that was one of the biggest concerns that the psychiatrist had, and knew that would be the biggest trigger for him. And so it's probably been 3 weeks now that you've been having energy drinks. Of course, I put the tiptoe shoes on and kind of walked around you, I think it was a week ago, and said, so when do you think we'll have the first trial of you not having energy drinks?
Yeah, because she just has to decide if she wants to be my nutritionist or my wife.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if you try to be both, one of them's not going to work out.
Right. It's good times.
That's I joke about marrying her to stay in line, but there's reality in that. I mean, she helps me. She doesn't try to tell me what to do, but when she watches me go down a slippery slope, just like anybody that cares for you should, she'll have a conversation with me about it. And what ended up happening is I stayed on my food. I was in a competition prepper for jiu-jitsu. I had a jiu-jitsu competition coming up. It actually happened 2 Saturdays ago. And like we said, it's been about 3 weeks ago that I started having energy drinks again. I went 40 days without the drinks. I had been feeling really good. I drove down to Georgia and I drove back. When I came back home, I actually, after the funeral, I didn't even leave Georgia until like almost 7 p.m. So I knew that I wasn't going to be pulling in until, even with the time shift, 2 a.m. our time, 3 a.m. from the time that I actually woke up that morning. Right. And so I decided I was just going to have one. I knew it wouldn't mess with my weight because I know that when I consume caffeine and I get those no sugar ones, that my weight is okay. I had to make a specific weight for my tournament. So the justification, this is where we start talking about motivation and discipline. The justification was I have to stay awake, and I'm going to need something to do that for me. I know this isn't going to affect my weight, and so I'm going to go ahead and have this because it's not going to affect my competition. The problem with that is that the justification was literally just me allowing myself to do what I wanted because I had no proof at that moment that I wasn't going to stay awake for the rest of the day. I wasn't nodding off. I wasn't in a position where I literally couldn't keep my eyes open. I had just started my drive and told myself I wouldn't make it otherwise without giving myself the chance. And this is where you relate to addiction. This is where you relate to the difference between motivation and discipline. The discipline should have been that I didn't allow myself to walk into the gas station and have the drink. The motivation was that I was focused on my weight for a tournament more so than I was focused on my brain and the healing process I'm going through to actually try to live a healthy, long life.
Right.
And I think people get that twisted. They get hung up on this motivation of I'm going to do a bodybuilding show, or I'm going to do a jiu-jitsu competition, or I'm going to do this event, or I'm going to this wedding, or I'm going to run a marathon, or I have a beach trip coming up that I need to look phenomenal for.
Right.
And we get so hung up on those short-term goals, those short-term motivations, that we lose sight of the long-term health.
Right.
And if you have the long-term health in line, those short-terms, they actually just line out for you.
Right.
But what happened is I allowed myself to fall back into this rut, and I have a very addictive brain. The chemistry of it, like we've learned from the Amen Clinic and just my studies over the years, your brain becomes addicted to things not because it literally says, oh, I like heroin, or oh, I like sugar. It becomes addicted to things because the chemical balance shift that occurs within inside of your brain on a neurological level is something that it recognizes and it desires for. And so once I allowed that one drink to come back in, I opened a floodgate of desire that I still to this day haven't wrangled.
And the unfortunate thing is that is a really, like, right there, that moment right there is where you can put up the argument that there is no balance in poison.
Right.
Okay. Oh, now come on. Everyone should have a healthy balance. Even when we first started,
moderation.
Even when you first moved into the house,
right.
And Sophie lived there and she was 2. Even parents, and grandparents were like, well, don't you think you should kind of balance and give her a little bit more of the junk food and a little bit more of this? At the end of the day, that right there, that exact thing that you said is why a balance of poison is just poison
Right.
in moderation.
Exactly.
Now, if you are the person that can have it and not let it trigger you and not let it turn into 4 energy drinks a day or the entire bag of dark chocolate or the entire bowl of ice cream because you ate the whole entire tub,
Okay,
then
let's keep talking.
then that's amazing, right? That's amazing if you're that person.
But I will tell you,
But
what I will
they're
tell you,
few and far between.
They are. That's
you know?
the thing is, and the amount. So the amount of people that acknowledge that they will eat the whole thing, that's a pretty good percentage of people,
Right.
The amount of people who say, "Oh, I wouldn't eat the whole thing," but actually still do. That's also a pretty good amount of people.
Right.
The amount of people who say I wouldn't eat the whole thing and actually have the control to not, it's a pretty small percentage. Like you would actually probably be surprised. I don't have numbers for you and I'm not going
Like
to pretend
10%.
to. But it's like, the thing is, those people.
I meet with them every day.
Right, exactly.
You know?
Those people, they don't understand that struggle, just like someone who's never been addicted to painkillers, someone who's never been addicted to heroin. They're not going to understand the heroin addict's addiction. Okay,
Exactly.
you're not going to get it, and in fact, you're going to tell your heroin addict friend or family member, "Don't do heroin because it's bad for you." But I'm here to tell you, if you're encouraging your family member to have the sugar, to have the caffeine, it's just one off meal. You're doing them just as dirty as someone telling their family member to go ahead and shoot up, because it's just as much, if not more, arguably, of an addiction.
Especially if they're having health issues.
Right.
If they're chronically dealing with health issues, whether that be joint pain, maybe that's serious gut issues, maybe it's migraine headaches. I'm not even talking about something as severe as what I deal with,
Right.
or something as severe as what you deal with. But how many people are taking an antidepressant right now and an anti-anxiety medication,
Yes.
and they don't even realize that it's being taken because of what they're consuming or what they're not consuming. So it's what's in excess, and then it's also what they're, literally lacking in.
I read an article, and I wish I could remember what article it was so I could give credit to the person who said it, so I apologize for not quoting, but something that really registered for me was this article. This guy says, I love how people will tell you that what they're eating has no effect on their brain. It's not an addiction. They can quit at any time. They just deserve to have that treat or that off meal or whatever it may be, and that it has nothing to do with the health problems that they're having. They'll write it off, but then they'll be taking a pill. And what he says is, if you think that you can bring this micro-engineered pill, okay, that has some of the same chemicals as your food in and absolutely alter and change your mind, why would what you're consuming on a much higher quantity not do the exact same thing?
Exactly.
It's the same digestive process.
It has the ability to heal. And what's interesting about the Chinese medicine that I've been studying, and, again, I don't want to tout myself as being that. I'm just saying it's bringing great healing into my body, but it's so unique how you can be having certain circumstances come up inside your body, and you can take one food and cool your body down with that one food.
Right.
You can be on fire having a hot flash, and you can consume one food and start to feel calm.
Right.
And start to feel like, okay, I can actually control how I'm feeling at this moment. It's so powerful
Right.
what food can actually do, the antioxidants, how they can heal. It's remarkable, but what it can do to your brain is just amazing. I mean, when John first came in to meet with me for nutrition, the depression was extreme, and it was just the overconsumption of sugar.
I literally,
his gut was a mess too.
The part of the details, but a week before I had my heart attack, I had actually fallen asleep with my duty pistol in my mouth, and I woke up with it on my lap. I was that depressed. I was ready to be done, and I woke up, and I remember looking down at my gun and being like, huh. That's laying on my lap. That was my reaction. Not, oh my gosh, what happened? Why would I have thought that I should do that? It was just, I was that low. And what's crazy about that is I can still get those spikes when I'm consuming things like this sugar and energy drinks. And to the point of motivation versus discipline, I'm telling you right now, sitting here as someone who does this for a living, I've been struggling for a couple weeks. I'm consuming things that I know are re-triggering those chemical imbalances. So I get it. I get why you think that you should have it, but you have to surround yourself with like-minded individuals individuals and people who are looking to be just as disciplined to not allow those things to come into your system.
And if you don't have anyone like that in your life, then you need to go find someone like John did. At that time, I mean, John, did you really have people in your life that were, you know, really focusing on health?
I actually have people that I unfortunately, life went a different direction. I don't see them anymore because I don't drink, because I don't do the things that I used to do. And it's just one of those situations where it's not like I'm better than them. In fact, I'm worse than them. I can't do what they do and be okay.
Right.
So, you get that opinion of like, oh, you think you're better than us now because you don't drink anymore. It's like, no, I don't. I actually think I'm worse than you because I can't handle the alcohol. So I have to stay away.
Right.
And if that means that we don't hang out, then I'm sorry, but I can't hang in that environment anymore. And so it's kind of one of those things where you have to put yourself around people that are trying to do the same thing, because then you guys can be disciplined together. You can rely on the discipline to do what you need to do instead of motivation, because what happens is motivation is based on emotion and it will be fleeting. It'll leave you high and dry at some point in time. I always get clients like, man, I wish I was as motivated as you to be healthy. I'm like, oh, you mean like you never want to work out? You want to eat pizza right now and have some candy afterwards? That's how motivated I am. Like what you want is my discipline. You want that I wake up and say, I've already got my meals prepped. I've got my food and I don't want to have to throw them away. So I'm not going to go buy food and then eat that, make myself feel like junk, and then throw the money away that I've already prepared for the day.
Right.
That's actually what you want. You want to work out because you say, okay, if I don't work out, my muscles hurt, I don't feel good, I got all these injuries, my connective tissue is going to fall apart. You don't want to work out because every time you're thinking, man, I just want to look better with my shirt off, because I want to look better with my shirt off. And I'm going to tell you right now, if that was my only motivation, I'd never work out again. I mean, it's just, you have to discipline yourself for the lifestyle.
Well, and I think at the end of the day, this is a big thing, in my opinion, is that you're either going to suffer the pain of discipline or you're going to suffer the pain of regret.
Right.
And so you just have to decide, which one matters to you. The pain of discipline is painful. It's painful that you could be laying on the sofa when your husband and daughter are playing a video game, but you're going to go ahead and get your food prepped instead.
Right.
But you're going to do it in the, they're going to play the game in the sunroom so that you can be in the kitchen, you all can be together, and you find a formula to make it work so you can still all spend time together.
Right.
And still make it enjoyable. The pain of discipline is, I'm at a party, every single person at the party is giving me trouble, because they don't do that to me anymore. I'm telling you that right now. But but everybody at the party is giving you trouble because you're not eating and you're not drinking. We're not invited. We're no fun.
To hang out with us anymore.
But it's the pain of discipline at that party is saying, no, I'm having some health issues and I need to stay focused.
And in the beginning, it feels awkward. In the beginning, it feels weird, and a lot of people, when you talk like that, they think you're just talking about changing the way you look.
Yes.
But you know why you're doing what you're doing.
Right. And God knows why you're doing what you're doing. And you need to honor him with the choices that you make for your body. I mean, if you're gonna really get into faith on something, you've got to make the right choices. You've got to get in the game with them too. If you're believing God for a breakthrough for your body, then you yourself have to get in faith on it and make the right choices, or you won't see changes.
Yeah, quit eating garbage and praying for a recovery.
That's right. That's right. Now, for more information on a 6-month nutrition program with us, you can take a look at us at integritytraininggroup.com, or to meet with a personal trainer regarding a personal fitness assessment, you can give us a call at 636-299-2208. What's interesting is, so good to be back with you guys. It's interesting that we probably could just sort of like talk about ourselves for the next 3 years and still probably make it
People
interesting.
Are gonna think we like ourselves
because we really have that much stuff wrong with us.
That's the thing. We just want to make sure that people understand that, it's tough to talk about yourself in the first episode, because you're like, man, I don't want people to think, oh, this is what the show is going to be, because it's not. The show is going to be about
science.
Our beliefs in science and health and some tips and tricks on how to get get yourself in a better position. But we just felt that it was important that you guys know that we are messed up.
And where we've come from.
We've had to come from a messed up background. And as you're hearing right now in this episode, like I'm giving you the struggles I'm even currently dealing with. So we're in it with you. You know, it's just real talk.
Yeah, now what we do at Integrity Training Systems at our O'Fallon location and our Clayton location is we offer with our personal trainers a free personal fitness assessment where we identify any muscle imbalances that you have, any postural deviations. We teach you how to foam roll, we teach you how to stretch, we give you mobility exercises. We don't charge for this because we feel like this is our way to identify how we should personal train you.
It also gives you the opportunity to meet us and see why we do what we do and how we do it.
Right. We do not have a sales pitch. We just have science. So we just share the science with you, and then we pray and believe that if it's right for you, that we will continue to be able to personal train you. We do have a private location. It is not a fitness center. So when you come into the gym, only folks that are training with trainers will be in there with you. You are offered the opportunity, if you train weekly, to be able to use our facility on a regular basis as your fitness center at no extra charge. Now that is... that fitness assessment is how I kind of first got you started on personal training, took you through that assessment and identified some imbalances that you had, John.
Yeah, well, after you crushed me mentally and spiritually and made me slide down in my chair and realize that I was worthless.
Oh, my Lord.
No, I'm just kidding. So after she met with me on my nutrition and got me started, I think I did the nutrition for two or 3 weeks before you talked to me about the assessment because we just knew that that's where I need to start. Our mutual friend kind of set it up so that that's what she was working with me on. And then she saw me in the
Andy
gym.
had just had a heart attack. So
we had to watch my exercise.
A slow approach, right?
But then she saw me in the gym working out on my own and realized that I was probably going to end up hurting myself. And it's probably part of why I'm as injured as I am is I've been working out for, 25 years. And so it's like a lot of that prior to learning what I've learned through the assessment and through my own studies now after working with and meeting with Debbie was wrong. It was improper. It was using the wrong muscles, not paying attention to contraction, not making sure my form and my posture was right. So she sees me working out and she says, hey, I really think that you should let me do this assessment with you and then maybe do some training. And I'm like, oh, okay. And so she takes me back and she puts me on this thing that girls do where it's like made out of foam and you roll around on it. And I'm like, I'm not doing this. This is like a girl thing. And I cried. So the very first time that I worked with Debbie and I was trying to be tough like the big, strong guy she said I was when I walked in when we first met was completely out the window because I was in tears and my calves hurt so bad and I wanted to throw up and I just wanted to go home. And that was the first thing we did. So she
was foam rolling.
She showed me.
It's not normally that bad for everybody.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm like a worst case scenario. If we can fix me, we can help you. But all joking aside, what happened was she was able to show me that a lot of my issues and my toxicity was coming from how bound up and broken my body had become. I was rough on my body growing up. I had no mobility. I had no flexibility. And so every movement I did, even if I was making a conscious effort to do it the right way, I was physically incapable of doing it because I lacked the mobility to get there. So even the first time we worked out together, we had to drop my weight legitimately to about 20% of what I was accustomed to working out with for me to even get it into the right muscle.
Right.
And so doing the assessment allowed me to see that. It allowed me to see that I had been doing things wrong. It allowed me to see that it wasn't even my fault of like a lack of learning. Even if I knew how to do it right, I was physically incapable of getting myself into the position to do that.
And your structure just wasn't going to allow for it. And that's the scariest part is that you can get a membership at a gym and get connected with a trainer and they can have you doing deadlifts and burpees on the first visit. I know this because I've dealt with a lot of the injuries that come from those.
Exactly.
And so they have no business doing those exercises. Zero.
Right.
It takes me a couple weeks, months before I even consider doing a deadlift with someone, and they have to show me an absolutely perfect bent over row before I'll even consider it.
Right.
And they don't even do the bent over row at first.
I don't even consider doing burpees.
That's true. That's true ever. Right, exactly. And at the end of the day, you have to identify where a person's weaknesses
Yes.
in order to be able to make them strong.
Right.
Because you're only as strong as your weakest link.
Well, and you're only as strong as you condition yourself to be on a daily basis too.
Right.
So, like I get clients that'll come in and they're afraid and, they're like, I just need to be able to move for the rest of the week.
That's right.
And it's like, you know what? That's not what we're here to do. Is like, if I bring you in here and I kill you today, okay, and you burn 9 million calories, like what's that really going to do if you legitimately can't work for the next week?
Right.
You can't get up, you can't
Right.
walk around, you can't go to the bathroom, you can't, because a couple things happen. One, you're missing out on the continued exercise for the next few days.
Yes.
2, you're probably not going to come back because it's terrible. And 3, you're actually putting yourself in a position where you're recognizing exercise and fitness as a negative.
That's
you're
right.
going to see it as that. You're not going
Right.
to want to go. You're not going to feel good about it. And if you moderate the exercise, you do it properly. You learn what we're going to teach you and learn the homework, learn the outside mobility work, learn the flexibility. You're going to find that the exercise is actually a lot more simplistic than you thought it was.
And there's stress in that. There's cortisol response in that. There's a reduction of adrenal function in overstimulation and just that continual pounding yourself over and over and over again.
Right.
And that's those structural imbalances, that forward shoulder posture. It will cause the stomach to push into the esophagus and cause reflux. Right. It'll cause you to not get the depth of breath that you should because your diaphragm will be compressed. Over time, it just puts you in a position to where you're actually not okay on the inside because you're not okay on the outside,
Right.
because you've got yourself so bound up. Your lymphatic system is responsible for transferring toxins out of your body. And if you're walking around in an acidic state from a structural standpoint on a regular basis, your lymphatic system is not getting rid of toxins.
Well,
it's staying locked up and swollen. So you can actually get more swollen
Yes.
if you are over exercising or if you're doing it too hard
and if
or
you're-
in the wrong way.
If your goal is to look swole, then
Right.
that's what you
You
do.
will, right. You'll be
you're gonna
swollen.
swollen. But
Right.
no, I mean, here's the thing. You got to understand, too.
That's really good.
Yeah,
I really liked that. That was good. Yeah.
There are high-level athletes. Like, I want to make sure that you understand. We're not necessarily talking about you. If you're someone who's working out 8 hours a day, you look great, you feel great, like, you're there.
Good for
okay?
you,
You
right.
figured it out. Your body's going. What I'm talking about is the person who tries and they fail because of pain. They fail because they don't feel well. They
Right.
fail. It's fail,
Knee
fail.
hurts,
And they
hip
never
hurts.
find that
Back
functional
hurts.
way to get to a well-balanced health. It's like you may be attacking it the wrong way. I had a client who, talking about structural imbalances creating internal issues, I had a client who dealt with digestive issues and acid reflux for 20 years. And she was able to get rid of her acid reflux by adjusting her structure, because what was happening, she's popping Tums and Peptid and all this stuff. And what was happening was, it wasn't a chemical issue. She literally
Structural.
had her body so kinked up and turned forward through her hips and her shoulders that she was getting acid reflux because anything she ate was pushing back up through
Same
the
thing,
kinks.
exercise-induced asthma. I've had clients with exercise-induced asthma, and they literally don't even take
just
an
impinged
inhaler
lungs.
anymore.
Right.
But their diaphragm's just not contracting.
Correct.
They're so forward. I've had clients that have been told that they need surgery for carpal tunnel, but their brachial plexus is compressed because they're so forward shoulder posture. These are the types of things that we are addressing in our fitness assessment. We're very thorough, very detailed with it, and there's no charge for it. So if you're interested in meeting with a personal trainer at our Winghaven location or our Clayton location, please look us up, give us a call at 636-299-2208. And if you'd like to get more information on doing a 6-month nutrition program with myself, or even our online program, you can take a look at us at integritytraininggroup.com. John, any last words? It's been a real blessing to be on the air with you all.
Yeah, I just want to tell
Pray
everybody,
blessing on you.
this is what we do for a living. So when you think you hear a sales pitch, you are, because it's what we do. We want you to come see us because we're in this business to help you. But at the end of the day, you got to understand that you need to make a choice. You need to make a decision if you're not feeling well to feel better, and surround yourself with people that can help you do that. And that's what we're here to do.
God bless you. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.